Hey there guys, welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies, and as you can see, I've gone back to my original setup here because I was able to get my plug down here to work, so this hopefully looks a lot better than the last couple of videos I've done, but and I figured why not do it for this particular weekend, because this is a very good weekend that we have here. This is the weekend of November 17th, 1989, and there are several decent movies that came out this weekend. Some that have become classics, some that have become movies that weren't as much successes at the time, but they've gone to become cult classics. But we're gonna delve into all of them today. We got 7 movies to look at, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with the first movie that we have here, and that is Eddie Murphy in his lone directorial outing, and that is Harlem Nights. Such a good cast for this movie. You got Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Della Reese, Jasmine Guy, Danny Aiello, Michael Lerner, Arsenio Hall. I mean, it's a great cast here, but this was one of Eddie Murphy's first real misfires as a filmmaker. I mean, an actor, I should say, because he had one critical box office failure, and that was Best Defense back in '84. I think it was like '80. I think it might have been around the same time Beverly Hills Cop came out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Eddie Murphy's name was attached to this movie all over the place. He wrote it, he produced it, he directed it, he starred in it. There was a lot of high expectations because Eddie Murphy was a big draw at the time, and he still was a big draw. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Coming to America, The Golden Child was even a big success. But this movie just, I don't know, it just didn't feel like a movie that worked to Eddie Murphy's strengths. I mean, it's not as bad as I think people give it credit for, because a lot of people really did not like this movie. It was on Siskel and Ebert's Worst of the Year list. But you could definitely tell why Eddie Murphy didn't really go back to directing as much as he did before this movie came out or afterwards. But I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, there are parts in this movie that are legitimately good, and I do like some of the visuals in here. The set designs are actually not as bad as I think people give it credit for. And I think Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, and Red Fox, they all work together really well. This cast overall is great. And I don't think there was just anything there to really make it work as well as I think Eddie Murphy wanted it to. But I'll give it credit, at least it was better than Bloodhounds Over Broadway, which is pretty much kind of like this movie in a way, but yeah, so Harlem Nights, I won't say it's a bad movie per se, I just won't say it's a great movie in any particular strengths. It does have moments that make it that warrant it to be watchable, but it's not. It's definitely one of Eddie Murphy's lesser movies at the time. I don't think it's one of the movies that one of his worst movies per se, because I think Eddie Murphy has done much worse movies since this movie came out, which we'll definitely get into in the years to come, but yeah, Harlem Nights, I just think it's an okay movie. It's not a great movie, it's not a bad movie, it's just kind of run-of-the-mill, and I think it was a little bit of a stain on Eddie Murphy's career, and I think this really began somewhat of the downfall of Eddie Murphy in the early 90s, because Eddie Murphy's career in the early 90s kind of took a nosedive after this movie came out, and we'll delve into those as we get into the years to come, but that's my thoughts on Harlem Nights. Now let's get to the movie that everybody remembers from this weekend, and that is Disney's The Little Mermaid. Yep, this was the movie that really changed the game at Disney. I mean, movies like Oliver and Company and The Great Mouse Detective were much better successes than, say, The Black Cauldron was or The Fox and the Hound, but it wasn't until this, along with the combination of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and that started the renaissance of animation that would later come in the 1990s, and this was the movie that really pushed it to another level, something that nobody really had expected at the time. But it's a movie that it's definitely a movie that's held up well over time. It's a movie that I think everybody can really get into, not just the girl audience that I think it was mainly targeted for, but people in general, in particular. I think anybody who, no matter what gender you are, can really appreciate the story. And it does take. I do like a lot of the elements here. The animation in this still holds up really well. This is the last movie that Disney did before they pretty much switched over to the cap system that they did in the 90s, which made their animated movies come out better and took less time to do. you can definitely nitpick some things about the movie. You could definitely say that the main character Ariel, she doesn't learn anything from this experience. She doesn't really go through something. She doesn't really do anything to warrant any kind of like punishment or something for something that she did. And in the end, she gets everything she wants. But I don't know. You can kind of make the argument that there are some things in this that actually make it feel less, make it make sense in a way. And I do it's one of those arguments that I think a lot of people can really have about this, but I agree with some of those arguments, but I think the movie does just as good of enough job to make you kind of appreciate it for what it really is. I mean, it really is a well-made movie, a fantastic animated movie, a fantastic musical. The songs in this movie are amazing. Howard Ashman and Alan Menken they took what made them what worked in stuff like Little Shop of Horrors and just brought it to here, and they've created some of the most memorable songs in music history, honestly. And it's funny when you look back at the history of this movie and you realize some of the stuff that almost didn't make the cut, like Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of Disney at Disney's animation department at the time, really wanted to cut out Part of Your World because they had test screenings and it didn't work, and they fought long and hard to keep that song in the movie. And they said it was because it wasn't playing well, but the animators were basically making the argument that it just needs to play better with the animation and all that. And it's one of those things where Jeffrey Katzenberg at the time, he usually was spot on a lot of things. He made the big deal about Black Cauldron, saying that you got to edit this down, and the animators made the argument saying that you can't edit down an animated movie. He said, of course you can. And so most of the time he was right, but then there were those times where he was just wrong. He was wrong on this, and it definitely shows when the movie actually comes out and Part of Your World's actually become the best known song from the movie. Wait till you hear what he has to say about Pocahontas and The Lion King whenever we get to those movies. But, I mean, I got nothing more to say about this movie. It's a classic. I love the characters. I love the storytelling. I love the animation. I love the music. It's just a movie that has really stood the test of time. It still remains one of the great animated achievements. And, of course, it started the Disney Renaissance, and it also started this resurgence of animation that we would get in the 90s. Like I said, I got nothing else to say. Little Mermaid's a classic movie. So... And The Little Mermaid was not the only animated film that came out this weekend. Don Bluth, once again going up against Disney, decided to put a new animated film out on the same weekend, and that is All Dogs Go to Heaven. Now, obviously, The Little Mermaid is the best of the two movies here, but I'm not gonna lie, I freaking love this movie, man. Like, when I was a kid, I used to watch this movie all the time as a kid. It still holds up for me today. It's just a great movie. It's a great movie. It's one of those movies that I can usually quote a lot of the first half of the movie. I played this movie so much when I was little. It's a fun movie. I mean, Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, you got Vic Tayback, Charles Nelson Riley, Lonnie Anderson. Great animation from Don Bluth. I mean, this was really his last great movie that he made in the 80s before he had that lull in the 90s. But not all of his movies in the 90s were bad. We'll get to those whenever we get to those movies, but this was the last really great movie I remember seeing from him. It's not American Tail good. It's not Land Before Time good. It certainly isn't Secret of the Nim good, because Secret of Nim is really the best movie I think Don Bluth has ever made. But this is a great movie all around. Like, I love this movie as a kid. It still holds up for me today. It's silly. It can get over the top sometimes. The animation is good, but not as good as some of his other works. But it's a great movie. It's a movie that holds up well over time. It's definitely one of my favorite movies, for sure. And yeah, like I said, Little Mermaid is obviously the better animated film, but this movie still holds a very special place in my heart. All Dogs Go to Heaven. I think it's a great film. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And the next movie is the holiday film Prancer. It's funny, I remember this movie too, but I don't remember as much as I did with All Dogs Go to Heaven. I feel like this is a movie that I didn't remember a whole lot of it, but as I watched it again a couple Christmases ago, I really have grown to appreciate it more. It is a good-hearted film. It's a harmless movie. It's a very... what's the best way to describe it? It's a fine film. I don't think it's a movie that stands up with some of the best Christmas movies of all time. I don't consider it a holiday classic, but from what I've seen here, it's definitely worthy of the time of the year. It reminded me a lot of One Magic Christmas, this movie that Disney did in the '80s that not a whole lot of people talk about. A movie that I think is very underrated. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a classic that should be seen every year, but if you want to see something new this holiday season, I'd say definitely check out that one and this one as well. This movie actually is pretty fun. Like the young girl Rebecca Harrell is very good here. You also have Sam Elliott, Cloris Leachman, Abe Vigoda, Ariana Richards, who we later see in Jurassic Park, is in this movie as well. And Johnny Galecki from why am I blanking on it now? Christmas Vacation and Big Bang Theory. You also have Jesse Bradford, who would later be seen in Clock Stoppers and Swim Fan. It's just a fun movie. This is just a good, fun movie. It's a good, if you're looking for something new, you want to see something different, or not even different, but like something that's perfect for the holiday season, I'd say definitely check this one out. So, I've actually forgot to do another movie before this one, so let's go ahead and do that one. That one is Steel Magnolias. And this movie was trying to be a success all around. They got all these big names attached to it. Herbert Ross, who directed films like The Secret of My Success, Protocol, Footloose, Pennies from Heaven, The Goodbye Girl, Funny Lady. You also have this incredible cast involved here. Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts. I mean, just a mix of some of the 80s best female actresses and some of these rising stars. This was one of Julia Roberts' earliest breakout successes. I think it even got her an Academy Award nomination. And you can definitely see why. It's a movie like, if you like movies like Terms of Endearment or like On Golden Pond or The Big Chill, like these movies that could be melodramatic, but they do just enough to make it stand out on its own. And there are elements in here that do make you laugh more than you would think they would be. That I saw this movie and I didn't think I was going to laugh as hard as I did with some of these scenes in this movie, but I'll be damned if I didn't laugh pretty long and hard at some of these scenes. Like, it's a great cast. Nobody's really overstepping each other. The direction is very good. The writing is top notch. I mean, this is a pretty good movie. It's a movie that I don't think a lot of people. I think it is. I think people do talk about it, but I think people don't really understand how solid this movie is, largely because of these performances these ladies give. You also have great performances from some of the other actors in here: Tom Skerritt, Sam Shepard, Dylan McDermott, Kevin J. O'Connor. It's just just a fun movie all around. If you haven't seen Steel Magnolias, I'd say definitely check it out. So that's one I forgot to do before we got to All Dogs Go to Heaven. But let's go on ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Valmont. Directed by Milos Forman, who also did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and just these other great movies. It's got a good cast to it. You got Colin Firth, you got Annette Bening, Meg Tilly, Fairuza Balk, Jeffrey Jones, Henry Thomas from E.T. is in this. I think the biggest problem this movie has is that we just had Dangerous Liaisons the year before, and I think that movie coming out so close to this one, I think really hurt its chances of really becoming a breakout hit or something, because not a lot of people really talk about this movie all that much. The performances in this are actually not bad. They're actually pretty good. But, yeah, there's just nothing here that really makes this one stand out over other movies of this type, like the aforementioned Dangerous Liaisons, or even something like Cruel Intentions we got 10 years later. But, yeah, it's Milos Forman doing what Milos Forman does best. If you like his work, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. So, on to the last movie, and that is High Stakes. I'm honestly surprised it's got a release in theaters, because if you really look at it, this looks like something that you could see on Lifetime or something like that, because this really does not look like a movie that should be in theaters. It looks like something that you'd see on Lifetime or on a Sunday afternoon movie of the week, like on the Telemundo Sunday movie of the week or something like that. Nothing about this trailer spells out theatrical release. I mean, you got Sally Kirkland in this, but other than that, I mean, this is the type of movie, like I said, you'd see it on Lifetime, maybe you'd see it on prime time as a TV movie of the week, but, I I can't really comment on it. I haven't seen it, but that's my thoughts on it. It doesn't look anything too spectacular. Looks pretty generic, honestly. It's like it's a New York hooker who's got to protect her daughter from these bad guys and do all this stuff on Wall Street and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, okay, so what's the point here? Like, what are you going to do here that I haven't seen done already in movies similar to this? So, and that's just my thought process on this. I mean, who knows? Maybe this has a following to it. I doubt it, but that's just my thoughts on High Stakes. So, there you go. And with that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next week, we jump into Thanksgiving weekend 1989. We only got one movie to look at here, and it's a movie that I'm very familiar with. Maybe this tone right here will give you an indication on what I'm going to look at. So yeah, next week, Sunday, we're going to take a look at Back to the Future Part 2. I'll have a full review for it, and needless to say, I have a lot to say about this movie, because I really do like this movie, but we'll delve into that when we delve into that. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow you'll see a new Movie Stop episode, and then Sunday I'll have the new Time About the Movies for you. So anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this one, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode. And I'll see you guys on tomorrow for the new video, and then Sunday for the new Time About the Movies. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, take care.